Mass Effect 3 ends with 3 distinct outcomes that all drastically change the future for both the galaxy and for Commander Shepard. Destroy, synthesis, and control all end the cycle of the Reapers in different ways, while also having a rippling effect on the races of the Milky Way galaxy. So when it comes to the next Mass Effect game, the real question is, where do we go from here? How do we continue a story that sets up the future in 3 very distinct different ways? So in today's video, I wanted to do a deep dive into everything we've been given for the next game and see if anything points to a possible canon ending. First, let's look at the trailer, specifically for any hints that could point to a possible ending. The first noteworthy thing in the trailer is the destroyed mass relay. This relay doesn't specifically connect to any one ending because in every ending the relays are destroyed. Destroy, synthesis, and control all show the relay being overloaded and exploding. So this relay could be from any of the 3 major ending choices. The next line is anyone receiving this, we've lost contact, could indicate a few connections to an ending or a possible timeline. My initial thought was, what if this was right after the relays explode in Mass Effect 3? I assume the relays being destroyed would limit both travel but also communications. So could this be someone trying to communicate after the relays were cut off? Next, we see Liara walking up a dead Reaper. And Mike Gamble did confirm this just in case anyone isn't 100% sure. So yes, she is walking across a dead Reaper. I think out of all the clues we've been given, this is the biggest indicator that the next game could have a canonized destroy ending. These massive Reapers look like they've been here for a while. So how else could these be here unless this was related to a destroy ending? Sure, there are dead Reapers from previous battles, but the Reapers being destroyed and dead in a trailer released so early is absolutely intentional. I don't think they would canonize an ending like Control, maybe Synthesis, but Destroy is the only ending that gives the possibility of Shepard both dying and surviving. Which brings us to the next important piece of this trailer, the N7 helmet. Now this helmet is extremely significant since the entire trailer leads up to the discovery of it. But is this Shepard's helmet? And where is Liara finding it? I don't actually think this is Liara finding Shepard's helmet from the ending of Mass Effect 3. The major reason is that the planet that Liara and her friends are on has 3 moons, and Shepard would have been found on Earth after the Crucible destruction, unless this was Shepard's helmet from the opening of Mass Effect 2. But related to the endings, it wouldn't make sense for Shepard's helmet/body to be anywhere aside from the closest place that they would have been blown to, which would be Earth. But I do think it would be extremely odd for BioWare to have an N7 helmet in the trailer if it wasn't referring to Shepard in the first place. Sure, they're clearly using nostalgia to bring back old fans, but I don't see them doing another switcheroo on us like they did with Andromeda's marketing, where all the N7 nostalgia was actually building up Alec Ryder and not Shepard. So I really do think this has to be Shepard's helmet, because if it was just some random N7, why would Liara have this reaction to it? It also couldn't be Alec Ryder's helmet because he died on Habitat 7, and that planet only had 2 moons and didn't appear to have snow. So if this was Shepard's helmet, why would Shepard's broken and tattered helmet be here, and why would Liara be finding it? I do wonder if this is Alchera, from the opening of Mass Effect 2 where Shepard dies. Alchera has 3 moons like the planet in the trailer. Dead Reapers being here would kind of be odd since Reapers weren't extremely active in the Omega Nebula, which is where Alchera is located, but it is still in the Milky Way galaxy, so Reaper activity is definitely still a possibility. It's a stretch, but this early into speculation with barely anything to go on is also a stretch. The biggest issue with this theory is that Alchera's atmosphere is made up of methane and ammonia, and Liara isn't wearing a helmet, so how is she breathing the air? Maybe the Reapers being here on top of the relay explosions changed the atmosphere? Highly unlikely, but if this is Alchera, Liara being able to breathe here doesn't make sense. Another interesting find was this post on Reddit where someone compared the 2 nebulas from Alchera's sky and the trailer, and they definitely do look similar. When looking up information about Alchera, I came across this Reddit post that talked about the meaning of Alchera's name, which translates to dream time. This meaning comes from an Australian Aboriginal mythology, referring to the final destination before reincarnation, which aligns with Shepard coming back to life in Mass Effect 2. But could Alchera, if that is the planet that we're looking at, also have another connection to this meaning with the next game and Shepard's helmet being found here again. Something else to keep in mind is that the snow on the planet has been here long enough to build up. Both the Reapers and the N7 helmet are covered in snow. While not a deep layer, it definitely doesn't look like fresh snow. So this looks like the Reapers and helmet have been here for a while. I don't know if this necessarily proves any ending. Liara could simply be on a mission on Altera and her crew is giving her a moment to mourn. If Liara was here to find Shepard's DNA, for her to clone Shepard, which is a popular fan theory, I feel like her response to finding the helmet would be very different. And that goes double for if Shepard was on the brink of death and Liara was finding them in the aftermath of Mass Effect 3's explosion. Her reaction to the helmet just doesn't align with an actual discovery, but more like a memory, a feeling. Her smile here also reminds me of the smile from Mass Effect 3's Destroy ending, and that could be the actual connection to the ending we've been looking for when it comes to this specific scene. In Mass Effect 3, if Liara is the one holding Shepard's plaque, she will walk forward and go to place the plaque but then will back away. Liara then smiles, and this only happens if Shepard survived the ending and you get Shepard's breath. So maybe this could be a clue to the ending and/or Shepard's possibility of surviving the ending as well. The final and biggest part of this moment from the trailer is that it could indicate Liara has aged and that there is a time jump. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that this is just a high resolution with the newer modeled Liara in an upgraded engine, and that very well may be a possibility and could be what we're seeing, but I did go back and replay the Citadel date with her where you can see her wrinkles and when they're most pronounced, and I do think she actually does have quite a few wrinkles here. Which I find odd considering that the other much older matriarchs we've seen in the series, Benezia, Athena, Arya, etc., don't have prominent wrinkles, and they're all a lot older than Liara. But anyways, Liara definitely has wrinkles in the Citadel DLC. You can see them especially when she smiles around her mouth and forehead, but I don't really see a lot around her eyes, and in the trailer she has more pronounced crow's feet. So maybe Liara is older. Or maybe Liara was always intended to have these wrinkles, and they're just more obvious now with newer graphics. If Liara has more prominent wrinkles because of higher graphics, then this could be following pretty closely to the events of Mass Effect 3's ending. And if this is an older Liara, then this could indicate a possible time jump to Andromeda. There was a journalist who did say that they spoke with BioWare about a confirmed time jump and confirmed that Liara is older in the trailer. But as BioWare hasn't revealed or officially announced anything, I'll still take that with a grain of salt, and while I do trust the person that reported this time jump, this still seems like a huge deal for BioWare to reveal so early. So let's leave the specific clue up in the air. But I think the most important part to focus on here is that she does not have the green synthesis data coding moving all around her body. We actually can't see her eyes, and the glowing here looks like it is from the sun behind here. So unless synthesis has evolved enough to just show in their eyes, this is most likely not following a synthesis ending. Unless BioWare hid any synthesis markings in the trailer, which they have done before. The next part of the trailer has Liara looking back at the crew she is with. Now I don't think anything here points to anything major, because there isn't a Geth or an Angara to point to a specific timeline or ending, but I do think these are races from the original trilogy. To the left, we clearly see a Solarian. In the middle, a possible human. Initially, I thought this could be Ryder, but now I'm not 100% sure, because the legs at the knee look a little off with how the light is reflecting. And the figure on the right looks like a Turian to me. The shape of the chest piece very much reminds me of Garrus's armor. Obviously, that is just speculation, since the only figure for sure that we know is the Solarian. So these are all the clues that I found from the trailer. So let's look at the poster that BioWare released for 2021's N7 Day. First off, the biggest and most obvious clue here is that the poster is shaped like a Geth's head. You can see the same silhouette in the rock formation and the glare of the light slicing horizontally through the head. There are even more Geth around the crater. But these Geth are dead, and it seems like they have been here for quite a while. There are at least 4 dead Geth bodies scattered throughout the wreckage. So clearly the Geth are making some kind of appearance in the game. These dead Geth bodies, coupled with the footage from last year's N7 Day, with the audio of the Geth speaking, tell us that the Geth will be involved. But just because we're hearing them and seeing them, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Geth will be alive during the next game. we could very well be listening to a transmission from the past. So if the Geth are not around and we're only seeing them in a past tense situation, this could indicate a Destroy canon ending. But with seeing this many clues already pointing towards the Geth, I would imagine they will probably be alive for the next game. And even if Destroy was canon, I'm sure BioWare could write a reason as to why the Geth were able to return. Maybe their data was saved somewhere and someone reactivated them, or maybe the Geth had actually left the Milky Way. Anything is a possibility. So that's really the only thing I see when it comes to a possible ending connection in this specific poster. So let's move on to the clip that I just previously mentioned. Now this clip is full of a ton of stuff, but let's specifically focus on anything that could indicate any type of ending choice connection. First, we see that it is a vacuum dock relay construction, and this lines up with all of the endings because all of the relays were destroyed. Well, specifically the relays that were activated, I'm going to assume. So it makes sense that new relays would need to be built following any ending. Now there is actually a ton of stuff in this tiny clip, but since we're focusing on stuff specifically related to possible ending choices, I don't see anything else that is noteworthy here. So let's look at the concept art we've been shown so far, starting with this piece of slightly newish Citadel concept art. This was released for last year's N7 Day and was kind of hidden in the blog post. Now this is a new image, but it seems like it is from an older image that had been altered. Instead of having a city skyline, it has a barren citadel with a ship traveling above it. There isn't a ton of details to see which ship this is, but it could be the Normandy, the Tempest, or the new ship from the poster, which all kind of have a similar engine trail. But back to the Citadel. If Shepard chooses Destroy, then we see a rebuilt Citadel, and that Citadel looks far more busy and renewed than this one in the concept art. So I wonder if this is related to a different ending than Destroy, since this looks like regression restoration-wise from the ending of Mass Effect 3. There were also two other pieces of concept art released for last year's N7 Day. The first looks like Ilium, and I don't see any indications of possible relations to any ending decision, except maybe since the relays were destroyed and it affected the atmosphere, and maybe that's why in both of these pieces they're wearing breathing apparatuses, and is why the atmosphere looks red. But that is a long shot, and all the relays were destroyed in all the endings, so it wouldn't really point to a specific ending anyways. The second piece doesn't really have any indications of ending connections anyways, but it is weird how similar these look to the beams from Mass Effect 3's ending. So moving on, there are 4 more pieces of concept art that were released back when BioWare released their 25-year anniversary book. The first one is obviously from the clip that they released last year of the relay construction, but in a more early concepting phase. So we'll skip this one, and honestly the next 3 don't really give any major clues either. The only thing that is noteworthy is that we don't see any Geth in any concept art except for the poster, and they're dead in that one. We don't see any possible Geth companions, and while of course they wouldn't reveal something like that so soon, it's just something to note. We're seeing mostly familiar aliens. So that is every piece. It's not a lot to go on as we're pretty early into development and not even close to release, so there isn't a lot to dissect. There is one more thing though that I want to bring up that is important surrounding the discussion of a canon ending, and that is player statistics. I mentioned before in my other video that statistically Destroy is the most popular choice, but according to the statistics released by BioWare in 2021, Destroy is only chosen by about half the fanbase. So could and would BioWare make an ending canon? Do they have to make an ending canon? Surely there has to be some way to carry over the endings in some way so that player choices from the original trilogy actually matter in the next game. They can use the Mass Effect archive so that players can input their choices. But again, will BioWare actually do this? Realistically, I do think that some aspects of the original trilogy will have to be canonized to move forward, and especially to conserve development resources, which is something I don't think a lot of players considered. If BioWare made a game where every choice still had an open story thread, the base game itself would require so much time and effort to make, it would limit new material. They'd have to build a world where only the Geth survived, or only the Quarians thrived, or a world where the genophage wasn't cured. And these are choices that should feel impactful, as they were built up in Mass Effect 3 pretty heavily. So if they built a world where everything was possible, I think it would limit what that world looked like and would inevitably make these choices feel less impactful. Another reason why I think BioWare might canonize a Destroy ending is that it is the only ending where Shepard can survive. BioWare continuing Shepard's story in some capacity could probably give closure to the fans who need it, even if Shepard isn't returning as the main character. But there are a lot of questions this would open up as well surrounding Shepard. Whatever BioWare does, they will have to make some hard decisions, and I think those will revolve around canonizing certain aspects of the story so that they can cohesively move the story forward. I genuinely don't know if they would canonize an ending. I feel like it would upset a lot of fans who enjoy the alternative endings. And like I said, Destroy is the most popular choice, but not by much. There are a lot of players who choose Synthesis, Control, and even some who choose Refusal. So BioWare has some pretty big choices to make, and will have to weigh how much the player base will accept when it comes to possible retcons or decisions that override their own. But yes, ultimately, I do think choices will have to be canonized to move the story forward. What those choices are obviously remains to be seen. We've seen the Geth, but we haven't seen any Geth that are alive. So who knows what BioWare has up their sleeve? I can't see them using so many references to Geth so early into development, and then not having actual Geth in the game, especially when we didn't get much time with Legion. So maybe Destroy isn't canon, or maybe it is and the Geth found a way to survive. Like every theory, this opens up more questions than answers. So what do you think? Do you think BioWare will have to canonize an ending to move forward? And do you think Destroy will be canonized? What ending did you choose, and would you be okay with BioWare canonizing Destroy? And did I miss any clues that maybe you found? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.